Good morning. Good morning to all of you. It makes me so happy to scroll through and see your faces. And to the visitors who are here with us today, we are so glad to have you. I want to do a special welcome and shout out to the children who are here with us today, and especially the ones who have agreed to be part of the service. So happy Passover and happy Palm Sunday. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Reverend Debra Haffner, and through the wonders of modern science, I am leading worship from California this morning. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've been fully vaccinated, and I flew out here to see our youngest, Gregory. Many of you met Greg as Mama Celeste during our first Rest and Pride festival. They have just been honored with a mural here in downtown Oakland for their service to the community. And so that's a picture of us standing in front of the mural of Mama Celeste. Very meta, right? And yes, it is 7 a.m. here. So I am happy to be with you. And I'm particularly happy about that we're going to be simulating a Passover Seder this year because we couldn't have one in person. We've decided to bring some of it to you. I hope you're prepared with a green vegetable and a small bowl of some water with some salt in it, and also a glass of juice or water or coffee for later in the service. And if not, please get up at some point and go get those things. We are in a different format this Sunday for this special service, and I love this format because I can see you. So I'm going to ask you all to turn your cameras on. We are going to keep you muted for most of the service. But at least for right now, put yourself on gallery view so you can see each other. I'm going to do that myself. And let's take a few minutes to wave to each other or give each other a thumbs up or maybe pat each other on the back. And let's just scroll through for a minute. I'm gonna do this too. So let's look at each other and see our faces in this wondrous technology that I'm so grateful that we have. It's so good to see you all. And again, thank you, those of you who are new. I'm so and visiting, and those of you who have your camera off. Sometime I hope you'll put your camera back on so that so we can see you. It's one of the pleasures of this. So our service today is based on a Seder, the traditional celebration of Passover. Seder literally means order because there is a set order to the celebration. Passover is a colorful and joyous festival that people have celebrated for close to 4,000 years now. Last night and again tonight, Jewish people and their family and friends around the world recall the liberation of the ancient Jews from oppression. Passover comes from a Hebrew word meaning called Pesach. It's an 8-day observance commemorating the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt, as told in the book of the Bible. In the northern hemisphere, Passover coincides with the beginning of spring, a time for renewal, rebirth. The story of Passover is a story of liberation and new beginnings. I'm leading worship this morning with our wonderful worship team. Mike, Beth, and Maggie are handling the technical side of worship, and Cynthia, Linda, Jesse, and I are leading the parts of this service. And I'm so grateful for this worship team. I have two announcements this morning. We are in the last week of the stewardship campaign, and the good news is we've heard from half of you, and the bad news is we haven't heard from half of you. So please, 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 please make your pledge today. We'll put up a link in the chat box. A team of your fellow congregants is going to start making calls to people next week who we haven't heard from, and we really could use fewer people to call. So thank you to all of you who have made your pledges. And I'm going to really ask, if you have not and you are a friend, regular friend or member, that you make your pledge today or tomorrow. We really need everyone's support. The second announcement is actually a video. It comes from your interim ministry search team. They've put together a video to tell you about where they are in the upcoming search for a new interim minister after I leave us. Holly Anderson does a wonderful job in this video explaining what the process is. So let's watch it together now.
Hello everyone, my name is Holly Anderson and I'm the incoming board president at UUCR. I'm also a member of the Interim Minister Search Committee along with Jesse Fortner, Marcia Hughes-Reese, Nani Mullen, and Craig Anderson. During February's annual meeting, the congregation approved this committee and we were appointed by the board to lead the search for our next interim minister. Just as we anticipate exciting new opportunities for Reverend Debra, we on the search committee are excited by UUCR's possibilities as we build a bridge to our next settled ministry together. For some, this will be your first experience with interim ministry. For others, this will just be one of many. We know these different experiences have led to divergent opinions within our congregation. So I want to share a few thoughts with you that I've learned about the recommended UUA process. This will be the first of many updates to you. First, interim ministry is an evidence-based best practice for Unitarian Universalists. Experience has shown that congregations hosting an interim minister for 2 years have a 90% success rate when calling a settled minister. This number is dramatically lower, 56%, for those organizations that try 1 year. In fact, it is the process that brought us Reverend Debra. I've also learned that it is possible to get an interim minister who is good at preaching. These ministers are accredited and are typically only interested in congregations where they can serve for 2 years. Preaching is one of many attributes we will be considering when making our recommendation on an interim minister. Finally, I've learned that creating a deliberate space between two settled ministers produces better matches that last longer. Research shows that right after a minister leaves, congregations are just not ready to look forward. They usually will either want a minister just like the one they had or just the opposite, rather than considering who they want to be as a congregation. Interim ministry gives us the time we need to think about who we are at UUCR and who we want to be. It's the bridge to our next settled minister. Our committee will be transparent and we will be listening. I invite you to come talk with us as we envision our future together at UUCR. You will be receiving information about listening sessions very soon as we need to complete our interim search application by April 24th. Please join us. This is an exciting time and we want you to be a part of it.
Thank you, Holly, for the update. So let us now take a few deep breaths together. Seriously, I'm looking at you. Take some deep breaths. And let us enter into a time of worship as Jesse plays for us a beautiful piece, Spring from the Velveteen Rabbit by George Winston.
Because we are Unitarian Universalists, we have open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. Together, we care for our earth and work for friendship and peace in our world.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Young, and I am the music director at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston. In our church, we intentionally recommit to each other every Sunday by singing our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church. We will sing along with our own beautiful congregation and choir virtual video. The words will appear in your chat box. If you are visiting us this morning for the first time, please accept this song as our blessing to you.
Now is the time for all ages, so gather around your screens. Passover is not my tradition, but I have learned from it and I hold its message in my heart. With Passover's universal message of liberation, thankfulness, and hope, I and others throughout this service will be using words as they might be spoken during a Jewish family Seder or community Seder. Since 2017, UUCR held a Passover Seder, and the explanation of the symbols on the Seder plate that I will be reading is adapted from the Haggadah Reverend Debra wrote for that occasion. Our Seder plate has symbols from the Exodus. There is boror, a bitter herb or horseradish, which represents the bitterness of slavery. Haroset, a mixture of apples and nuts, which represents the bricks and mortar we made in ancient times. The bone represents the lamb shank or Pesach, which our ancestors ate. They then used the lamb's blood to mark the doors of their homes so that their children would not be killed by the Pharaoh's order. The egg symbolizes rebirth. The parsley represents new growth of spring. Salt water represents our tears. And the matzah is here because there was not enough time for the bread of our ancestors to rise before they left Egypt. Finally, there's the orange. Susanna Heschel, a well-known Jewish feminist scholar, came across a Haggadah written by students at Oberlin College in which they had devised a ritual of placing a crust of bread on the Seder plate to symbolize the saying, "There is as much room for a lesbian in Judaism as there is a crust of bread on the Seder plate." Though she was inspired by the idea of the story, Heschel felt that putting bread on the Seder plate would be to accept that Jewish lesbians and gay men violate Judaism, like leavened food violates Passover. Instead, she chose an orange as a symbol of the inclusion of gays and lesbians and others who are marginalized within religious communities. Today, the orange reminds us that there is a place at the table for all of us, regardless of gender identity, expression, or sexual orientation. As free people, we constantly recreate ourselves, and like the fruit, we carry within us the seeds of rebirth. These are the symbols of the Passover Seder.
Thank you, Linda, for that. So this is the time in our service where we invite you to light a virtual or a real candle in your home for a joy or concern in your heart. You're invited to share those joys and sorrows in our chat box. Please write to all attendees and remember that everything you write is public. Please take the time to read what others are putting in the chat box. And when you are done, let me invite you into your own time of meditation, reflection, and prayer. As Jesse plays for us a tune you will hear that will sound very familiar, Spring Song by Felix Mendelssohn. Would you join me, please, in the spirit of meditation and prayer? Spirit of life and love, we ask that you surround us and that we feel the Spirit within us. We reach out to each other with our prayers and love and concern. We hold in our hearts the people of Boulder, those who lost people, and for those whose security has ever affected. We hold in our hearts the people of Virginia Beach for yet another senseless shooting, and we pray for the day when automatic rifles will no longer be accessible to people. We share our hearts with those who are carrying concerns with Maggie for her uncle, for people who are struggling with relationship issues, financial issues, parenting issues, health issues. We think about those who are in hospitals, who have new diagnoses. We send our love and our best prayers. And on this day where it is raining in Reston, we celebrate the beginning of the spring flowers, the return of the earth, of the beauty that is where we live. We hold in our hearts Elaine's grandson, married in Stockholm, and know the joy in her heart and wish she could have been there in person, not just on Zoom. We hold in our hearts those who are about to engage in spring break and a much needed respite from both online school and online teaching. A break that we all need. We celebrate the wisdom and the courage of our Virginia legislature as they finally get rid of the death penalty in Virginia. And we send our concerns to those in our national government to do the right thing. And to all the people at the border who, like the Israelites, are making a journey to what they hope is a better land, a better time. So we take all of those feelings, our joys, our concerns, our sorrows, and our gratitude, and we land on gratitude for another day, another opportunity to say thank you, to say I love you, to be together. And so may it be. Amen. Okay. When I pray like that, I often go someplace far away, and then it takes me a minute to come back to where we are. So we're at the point in the service where we're going to talk about the 4 questions. The Seder is actually centered on asking and answering questions. Seders begin in people's home by children asking what are called the 4 questions. In a Jewish home, it is the responsibility of the youngest child at the table to learn these 4 questions, often by just the age of 3 or 4, in both Hebrew and English, and recite them. So this morning, I'm going to say them in Hebrew, and then one or more of the children of our church will read them to you in English. So Eleanor, are you ready? Okay, so first question. Manishtana Halayla Hazeh Mikol Halaylot. Eleanor is muted. Kara.
Okay. Why is the night of Passover different from all other nights of the year?
Thank you. Shabakal Halayloto clean Hamatzo Matzah Halayla Hazeh Kulo Matzah. And we're going to go to Knox and Blaze.
Okay, go ahead. On all other nights, we eat either leavened or unleavened bread. Why on this night do we have to eat only matzah?
Thank you. Shabakal Halayloda Nua clean Shara Irakad Halayla Hazeh Moror. And we were still with I think we're at Knox now, right?
On all other nights, we eat vegetables of all kinds. Why on this night we must eat bitter herbs?
Thank you, Mr. Knox. Shabakal halaylo danu aklim matbila nafilu pama echad halayla hazeshem famim. Hi, Alana.
On all other nights, we do not dip vegetables even once. Why on this night do we dip grains into salt water and bitter herbs into sweet haroset?
Nice. Shabakal halaylo danu aklim ben yoshin uvein misubin alayla hazeh kulan mihuzubim. Hi, Mazzy.
On all other nights, everyone sits up straight at the table. Why on this night do we recline and eat at leisure?
Thank you. So thank you to our children. No matter who we are, no matter how wise we become, no matter how much understanding we gain, no matter how much we've studied, it is still important each year to ask and answer these questions to share the Exodus from Egypt. And so now we're going to go to the part where we tell the story. The section of the Seder where we tell the story is called the Magid. Magid is a Hebrew word for story, and it's the root of the word Haggadah, which is the order of service we're using. We are commanded to tell the story of the Exodus, and the scripture says, as though we were each personally liberated from Egypt.
Once upon a time, the Jewish people fled to Egypt, where food was plentiful. Generations passed, and our people remained in Egypt. As rulers came and went, a new Pharaoh ascended to the throne. He felt threatened by the strength of the Jews and ordered our people enslaved. Even after working to build the Pharaoh cities, the Jews' hearts remained strong. In fear of rebellion, Pharaoh decreed that all Hebrew boy children be killed. Moses' mother hid him for 3 months, and then, when she could no longer hide him, she made an ark, or a basket of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the riverbank.
The story continues with Pharaoh's daughter finding the baby Moses and bringing him home to be raised in the palace. Moses' sister, Miriam, came to Pharaoh's daughter and cleverly suggested she hire Moses' own mother as his wet nurse. Thus, he survived to adulthood and was raised as Prince of Egypt. Although a child of privilege, as he grew, he became aware of the slaves who worked in the brickyards of his father. God spoke to him from a burning bush, which, though it flamed, was not consumed. God called him to lead the Hebrew people to freedom. Moses argued with God, pleading inadequacy, but God disagreed. Sometimes our responsibilities choose us. Moses returned to Egypt and went to Pharaoh to argue the injustice of slavery. He gave Pharaoh a mandate that resounds through history. Let my people go. We invite you now to sing with us hymn number 104, When Israel Was in Egypt's Land. This song tells the story of the ancient Israelites that we were just learning about, the story of Moses demanding that Pharaoh should set the people of Israel free. But it is not a traditional Jewish song. This song is an African-American spiritual sung first by enslaved people in our own country who used the story of the Israelites as an allegory for their own journey to freedom. In fact, legend has it that Harriet Tubman used this song as a beacon in the Underground Railroad, and that is why this tune has been given her name, the Tubman Tune. The words will be in your chat box. Please do join in with me and Jessie.
Israel was in Egypt's land. Let my people go.
I loved watching you all sing. But Pharaoh refused to let the Jews go. And so Moses warned Pharaoh that the God would strike the Egyptians. These were not idle threats. 10 terrible plagues were unleashed upon the Egyptians. It is because of the suffering the plagues brought to them that we recite each plague and spill a drop of wine or juice, hopefully not wine this early, juice or water or your coffee from your cups. Our joy and our liberation will always be tarnished by the pain caused to the Egyptians. So I'm going to ask you to take your cup. I'll give you a second to grab something. And we're going to take one drop out of the cup and put it in a bowl or on the table next to you. Use your pinky finger to drop one drop for each of the 10 plagues. And it's important that you don't lick your finger. The idea symbolically is that we are taking things out of our joy to recognize the pain in others. So Maggie's going to put a list in your chat box. And we're going to unmute you all. So if you'll accept the unmuting that we're going to send you right now, so I can hear you. And then I'm going to say it first, and then I'm going to ask you all to say it right after me. Okay, so you ready? All right, so blood.
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 Frogs.
Frogs.
Ice.
Ice.
Yeah. Flies. Cattle plague. Boils. Hail. Locusts. Darkness. Death.
And plague.
Each drop that we remove is our hope and prayer that people will cast out the plagues that today threaten everyone, that are found everywhere, beginning in the plagues of our heart. So we're going to unmute you one more time, and we're going to say together, removing one drop of liquid from our cups, a list of modern plagues. So let's unmute everyone, please. And I'll have you say them after me. Again, after you drift. So COVID and other diseases.
COVID
and other diseases.
Hunger and famine. Racism. Sexism. Islamophobia. Xenophobia. Homophobia. Transphobia. Denial of climate change. And violence and discrimination against anyone.
Violence and discrimination against anyone.
The story continues that only when Egypt lay in ruins did Pharaoh agree to the Jews' liberation. But as the Jews set out, Pharaoh changed his mind and sent his army to trap the Jews at the Red Sea. With nowhere else to go, the Jews plunged into the waters. Only when they had gone as far as they could did the waters part. And then they fell back to drown the approaching army. We mourn even now that others died so that we would be free. To this day, we relive our liberation that we may not be complacent, that we may always rejoice in our freedom. God brought the Jews from Egypt and brought them to the land of Israel, gave them the Sabbath and the Torah, and each act in and of itself would have been enough. We affirm through chanting of Dayano, that any evidence of sacred working in our lives is enough.
One of my favorite parts of the Seder is Dayenu. It would have been enough. And we're going to ask everyone to unmute now. When I read a line, at the end of the line, I'm going to ask you all to exuberantly say Dayenu. It is a poem of gratitude for all that was done for the Israelites and a reminder to us now to be grateful for all we have in our lives today. So, okay, we're unmuted. So, had God brought us out of Egypt and not divided the sea for us,
Dayenu.
God divided the sea and not permitted us to cross on dry land, permitted us to cross on dry land and not sustained us for 40 years in the desert, sustained us for 40 years in the desert, but not fed us with manna, fed us with manna, but not given us the Sabbath, given us the Sabbath and not brought us to Mount Sinai, brought us to Mount Sinai and not given us the Torah, given us the Torah and not led us into the land of Israel, led us into the land of Israel and not built for us for the temple, built for us the temple and not sent us prophets of truth, sent us prophets of truth and not made us a holy people. For all of these, alone and together, let us say,
Let's sing together the traditional Hebrew song. There we go. Let's sing together the traditional Hebrew song, Dayenu. The Hebrew words will appear in the video. This is a joyful, exuberant song of thanks, so join in and sing out with gusto.
It sounds like this. We'll start with the chorus. We just say die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, enu. Die, enu. Sing it with me. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Yeah, you got it. Die, die, enu. Die, enu. Die, enu. Ilu hotzi, hotzianu, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, dayenu. Sing it with me now. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Dayenu, dayenu. Ilu natan, natan lanu, natan lanu etan Torah, natan lanu etan Torah, dayen. You got the hang of it. Die, dayenu. That sounds good. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Dayenu, dayenu. Let's sing it again. Die, dayenu. Okay. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Dayenu, dayenu. Ilu natan, natan lanu, natan lanu et hashabat, natan lanu et hashabat, dayen. All right, come on, guys, sing it nice and loud. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Yeah. Die, dayenu. Dayenu, dayenu. One more time. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Die, dayenu. Dayenu, dayenu. Bum, ba, ba, da, ba, dum. Oh, I didn't hear anyone. Bum, ba, ba, da, ba, dum. Bum, bum. Nice job. Happy Passover, everybody.
Didn't that put you in a good mood? At this point in the Seder, it would be time for a wonderful feast of traditional foods. We would maybe have some gefilte fish, some homemade chicken soup with matzah balls, brisket, simmis, matzah kugel, spring roasted vegetables. I have such wonderful memories of Irma and Bee's chicken soup in the sanctuary and Jeff's brisket. Jeff, you owe me brisket this year. And I hope that you will continue the in-person Passover Seder tradition after I leave you. Interestingly, the story of the Seder told at the Seder ends with that passage at the Red Sea, the beginning of the journey to liberation. It doesn't include the 40 years of wandering in the desert until the Jews reach Israel, the land that God has promised them. Moses never makes it to the promised land. He dies within view of it. The Passover story, my friends, is powerful because it is our story also. It is a truth story, as I've talked to you about many times, if not a historically validated one. We too are always setting out for new beginnings. We too fight our enemies, our own internal ones, and the external threats. How much more real the plagues feel this year after the year of COVID. We too will enter the wilderness at times, not knowing what's ahead, just that we need to go. And we can have faith that we are heading in the right direction despite doubts. I know many of you, including me, are feeling some of that right now. And like the ancient Israelites, we trust that our faith and our community will get us through to the other side. So now let us join Cynthia in singing a traditional song that is sung at the end of many Seders. It was always sung at my father's Seder. The words will be in your chat box. I'm going to encourage you first, let's listen to it in Hebrew and then join in singing the English words, which again, you will find in your chat box.
In the year that's to come, our lives will be so peaceful, counting birds as they soar in the sky. As the birds spread their wings, see the sun streaming through them, we'll rise up like the birds, we will fly. In this year that's to be, we will sing, you and me, sing a song of a new day begun. Come with me, you will see just how sweet life will be when we sing, when we dance in the sun. In this year that's to be, we will sing, you and me, sing a song of a new day begun. Come with me, you will see just how sweet life will be when we sing, when we dance in the sun. When we sing, when we dance in the sun.
Jesse and Cynthia, thank you for that beautiful rendition. I shared with the worship team that in my home, we always butchered that song. It's a beautiful song and hard to sing. So you all did a beautiful job. Thank you. So Passover is partially about the sharing of ceremonial foods, and I wish we were doing that in person together. I really now feel like I've got to go find chicken soup and matzo balls in Oakland. But we're going to do one of the rituals, which is the ritual of the karpas, the sign of spring on the Seder plate. So if you would grab your parsley or your celery or whatever thing you brought. The green vegetable on our Seder plate is called karpas in Hebrew, and it represents health and nature. It signifies hope for the future. It symbolizes spring's regenerative power and the promise of personal renewal. But we all know that the path to renewal can be long and circuitous. Plants must pass through the bitterness of winter before blooming into abundance in spring. When we dip the green vegetable in the salt water, we are symbolically tasting the tears of Israelites' hardships, slavery, and desperation, while remembering the path to freedom that awaited them. And so Linda's going to demonstrate, because I forgot to bring parsley with me to the hotel room. And so you're going to dip your carpus in the salt water. Don't eat it yet. And we're going to all say, and the words will be in your chat, first in Hebrew and then in English, the prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hadamah. Blessed are you, God, creator, who creates the fruit of the earth. And now you can take a bite of your green vegetable. It is traditional to end the Seder with the words, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. The call speaks to the feeling of exile which characterized the Jewish diaspora for centuries. But now that there's the state of Israel, the call is often different. Next year, wherever we are, may we be at whole and at peace. Next year, may we once again be together in the sanctuary, sharing a meal. Praise God, please God. We use these words traditionally to end the Seder, and then that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be welded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then all people will be gentle, and all people will be strong, and all will be in harmony with each other and the earth, and everywhere will be called city of wholeness and city of peace. So it is a tradition to say next year in Jerusalem when we end a Seder, but instead we're going to invite you all to unmute. And when I count to 3, we're all going to say together next year in Reston. So I'm waiting to see you unmuted. Are you ready? So 1, 2, 3. Next year in Reston. And while we are unmuted, let me ask you all to show your appreciation to all who made this service possible.
Yay!
Thanks again.
Good job.
Oh.
Our postlude is the beautiful Israeli folk song, Shalom Haverim. We hope you will join in with our wonderful soloists, Kara Fortner and Lena Michaela Miles. The words will appear in your chat box. The meaning of this song is peace, my friends, peace until we meet again, peace. The words are Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Le'itraot Shalom. So let's take just a moment to practice that. So the first phrase is Shalom Haverim. You can give that a try. One more time, Shalom Haverim. And then Le'itraot. That means till we meet again. And then it ends with Shalom. Lena and Kara will sing the song once through each before breaking into a 2-part round. When the round begins, you can choose to sing along with either Lena or Kara. Let's all sing together now. Shalom Haverim.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Leitraot, Leitraot, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Leitraot, 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 Shalom, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Leitraot, Leitraot, Shalom, 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 Shalom.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. How beautiful. And I hope you all, thank you for the few of you who've written a few notes. I hope you've enjoyed our Seder this morning. It actually has been so good for my heart to have had Seder with you, even in this strange medium. And peace, my friends, until we meet again. Before we start our time in our breakout rooms, we ask you to make your contribution in our virtual collection plate. We'll put up a slide in a minute, as well as the link in the chat box. Please stay right here. You don't have to go anyplace this morning for the breakout rooms, but please do stay on and wait while Jessie finishes playing for us. I hope you'll talk in the breakout rooms about how the Passover story is a truth story for you. And if you are one of our members who comes from a Jewish background, I hope you'll share with each other a little bit about your own memories of Passover Seders. Let me also take a moment to remind you, please, please, please make your pledge for next year if you haven't already done so. We really need to hear from everyone. We also invite you to use the chat box as a virtual reception line, as some of you already have done. If you'd like to leave us a message about the service, know how much your words of appreciation mean to us. Before we put up the offering slide, let me close the service by saying the words I say to you each week. My friends, go in peace. May your real service begin. Happy Passover. Happy Palm Sunday.